This video is going to outline the process used to create the high quality fake restraining orders that Anna Rojas used to obtain control of our son Arlo and have me unlawfully arrested. The so-called restraining orders that Rojas has, there was no application reviewed and no orders made by a real judge. We know this because these orders were never registered in CLETS, the California Law Enforcement Telecommunication System, and that is a mandatory requirement for all valid restraining and protective orders in California, with no exceptions, not even by judicial stipulation. If you have valid orders signed by a judge in California, they are immediately or within one business day registered in CLETS, and the evidence that they were not registered in CLETS and invalid was suppressed by the Los Angeles District Attorneys, LAPD, and the judges. So they know about the fake restraining order scheme. It does appear that there are many authorities and lawyers in Los Angeles County who condone or even use them when suitable. The reason they are such high quality is they are an inside job. There is a clerk called Dave Hawk McCallion at Stanley Mosque Courthouse. He gives these fake orders a case file number and he makes fraudulent court registry entries. The case file number, court registry entries, and unauthorized use of a judge's stamp, those three factors create virtually undetectable fake orders. And because access to CLETS is restricted, only authorized personnel, and they have to have cause to hop in and have a look. It's not like anyone can just go and check on CLETS. This process takes advantage of the system used to validate real orders. And hopefully that irony is not lost on any authorities wanting to correct this situation. The way that I worked out this process was I gathered all of the matters that Judge Gary Ito heard on July 31, the day these orders were allegedly made. Of the 14 matters that Judge Ito heard on July 31, 12 of them featured the uppercase stamp here. 2 applications, the Anna Rojas application and another application by a fellow called Timothy Ratcliffe, had the Judge Ito lowercase stamp, and many other identical irregularities. They were all typed. There was no handwriting. All of the other matters that Judge Ito heard, there was some handwriting taking place on the papers. These applications were all typed. There was no pen anywhere. The DV 109 and 110 forms in both applications had this vertical received at 8 a.m. stamp on the upper left-hand side. Both the Rojas and Ratcliffe applications are filled in and signed a few days in advance of when the orders are allegedly granted. So the Rojas forms were completed and signed on the 28th of July, and the Ratcliffe application was completed on July 29. For ex parte emergency orders that are being granted on July 31, it's the sort of thing a judge would pick up on and question whether there was an emergency. But the most significant feature is the staggered filing times. And this works in conjunction with the fraudulent court registry entries. Let me explain. The Judicial Guide to Restraining Orders in California states clearly that the restraining order forms, the 100, the 109, and the 110, the judge needs all 3 forms with them when they are reviewing the application. So they travel together. They are sent by clerks together, and no judge's assistant would receive the forms independently of the other. With the Rojas and Ratcliffe applications, the DV 100 and CH 100 are filed at 8 a.m., but the 109 and 110s are not filed until later in the day, after judges have finished reviewing applications. This fact alone confirms that these applications were not sent to a judge for review. The filing time refers to the time when the court clerk ingests the application into the court system. It only takes place once, when the application is first received at the court the clerk checks everything is in order, and then they file the papers into the court system. That's what the filing time refers to. So if the DV100 was filed at 8 a.m, then the 109 and 110 should have been filed at the same time and then sent on for review. The DV109 and DV110 are not filed, and yet the clerk, Gavork McCallion, makes 2 fraudulent court registry entries. He uses the word proposed next to fraudulent entries for the 109 and 110. So you'll see here that there was a proposed 109 and a proposed 110. That's to give the impression that the application was filed and it's being considered. The reason that the DV109 and DV110 forms are filed later in the day is in correlation with a second fraudulent court registry entry that McCallion makes. This time he puts down the DV109 and DV110, but he does not attribute the entry to the petitioner. Instead, he leaves it blank. And the reason he leaves it blank is it is giving the impression that this is the signed orders being returned by the court itself. So leaving the second court registry entry blank is meant to be the court returning signed orders that are now being filed into the system. To be clear, these are not what happens with valid orders. If you look at the court registry for the valid orders made by Judge Gary Ito on July 31, they only have one entry for each form, and that's attributed to the petitioner, who is the one that filed the application. And that's all that there ever should be. This 2-step court registry filing system is the biggest giveaway of the fraudulent orders. When you match it up with the staggered filing times, the impression is that an application was reviewed and signed by a court and then it was filed into the court registry. Makes perfect sense if you don't know exactly what these functions are. But when you look at the rules for how the judges review and make the orders, these forms can never be separated. That's the guarantee that they were never sent to a judge for review. We don't know who applies the judge's stamp, but we presume it is done without the judge's consent or awareness. And it's a serious criminal act. Abud Maj is impersonating Judge Gary Ito and he's giving himself judicial powers. He's not a judge, and the orders that he made were that the infant's safe, protective family, his primary caregiver father, who put his career on hold when the nanny left due to concerns about the abuse, and was with his son all day, every day for 3 months and had been with him every day since he was born, was all of a sudden ripped out of his son's life. So did the infant's legendary kindergarten teacher of over 50 years, grandmother, Lynn Kerry. She had to leave immediately, as did his pet dog, his best friend, inseparable since he came home from the hospital. They were tight. They loved each other. All 3 of Arlo's family just disappeared. And to be given the impression that a judge had made those orders, and for all of their friends and family and work colleagues to be told that these were orders made by a judge, and they weren't made by a judge. And Ana Rojas is not a victim of domestic violence. Someone who resorts to impersonating a judge and giving themselves judicial powers and using that deception, that fraud, to further traumatize an infant whose only need is to be safe and loved, to rip that away from him, to inflict more trauma on him as a means of giving herself false status, a false identity, should give you an insight into the constant, imminent danger which Arlo remains in as a result of this fake restraining order stunt. A relatively light search has already revealed that these fake restraining orders have been used by Marj for many years, and I'm certain that many lives have been destroyed by Farbud Marj believing he is entitled to act as if he was a judge.
And it was signed by the judge, all granted. I'm going to show you the judge's signature.
Okay, perfect. That's all I need.
And also, it says over here that she has the exclusive use. He has to move out. His mother has to move out as well.
Okay. All right. So him and
And
her.
then he has to move out
that mom?
immediately. That's the mom, yes.
Okay.
And he has to move out immediately.